Hey guys, this is Mr. Ford. I will be doing the Algebra 1, Part 1 EOC review today. So this is going to look pretty familiar to you guys. This is the test you took literally last week. We are going to explain how to do every single problem. That way we're ready to go into this EOC comfortable and confident to absolutely rock it. So let's go ahead and jump in. It says, which of the following are factors of the equation when written in factored form? So remember, factored form is when we break apart something that's bigger. Okay, so we're breaking it apart into factored form, and it says select all that apply. So the way we do this is we are first going to draw a river. We are going to move everything to the same side. So I can move it to the right side or I can move it to the left side. It makes more sense just to move it all to the left side. So to do that, I have to subtract 3a from both sides. So minus 3a. Okay, when I do that, I'm left with 2a squared plus 5a minus 15 equals negative 3. Okay, then the last step, I have to add 3 to both sides, just like this. Okay, so I'm left with 2a squared plus 5a minus 12, because negative 15 plus 3 is negative 12, and then these just cancel out. So my new equation is 2a squared plus 5a minus 12. And I ask myself, I look at this, can I take out a greatest common factor? Hopefully my answer is no, because there's nothing I can pull out of a 2, a 5, and a 12. So what am I going to do? Some of you guys learned the tic-tac-toe method. Some of you learned the AC method. I'm going to do the I'm going to do the AC method, excuse me. Okay, so what the AC method is I draw my X there. A times C, so 2 times negative 12 is negative 24. My B is just 5. So I need two numbers that multiply to negative 24 but add to 5. So I'm going to choose 8 and negative 3. And then what I do, I'll choose a different color for this one, is I rewrite 2a squared, so 2a squared. Instead of writing 5a, I write plus 8a minus 3a minus 12. So now I have 4 terms, and if you remember right, now I have to do grouping. So I put parentheses around the first 2, parentheses around the second 2, and I have to pull up the greatest common factor. So in the first one, the biggest thing I could pull out is a 2a, so I'm left with a plus 4. In the second one, the biggest thing I can pull out is a negative 3, so I'm left with a plus 4, just like that. Now, let me get on this side. I can combine, since I have the same thing in my parentheses here, I combine what's on the outside. So 2a minus 3. I combine what's on the inside, a plus 4. Now these are my factored forms. So I know my answers are going to be B and... Okay, next question. It says Kelly recorded the amount of money she earned. Why? For hours worked. X. Select the words from the drop-down list that correctly complete the sentence. So if you look at this, if we're looking at this here, we know that they are all increasing because it's literally getting bigger. Okay, so they're increasing. The function is linear, and here's why. Okay, if I were to put a 2 right here, I know that I would make $30 per hour because it increases by 15 each time. Okay, so since it's the same slope in this table here, I know that it's going to be linear. Okay, because this goes up by 15 each time. So these each go up by 15. And these each go up by 1. And rise over run, so y over x, our slope equals 15. Right? So we would say m equals 15 on this one. So we know it's a linear slope. Okay, the way we find our y-intercept is we go to where x is 0. And when x is 0, if I go back 15, I know my y is also 0. Okay, so my slope is, or not my slope, my y-intercept is 0, 0. Okay, it says which student correctly solved this expression? Okay, so on this one we have x to the 1/3 times x to the 1/4. If you remember rules of exponents, when we multiply a number with the same base, aka the x, I just add the exponents. So right now, I have to try to add 1/3 and 1/4. And I say, hey, Mr. Fourth, that makes no sense. How do I do that? You have to make the denominators the same. So to do that, I multiply the entire exponent by 4. And I'll show you why. I multiply it by 4/4. So it turns into 4/12. And I'll multiply the entire exponent over here by 3/3. So I'm left with 3/12. Okay, so now our denominators are the same. So whenever I add them, I get x to the 7/12. Okay, so it's going to be A. Joe says the answer is x to the 7/12 because the exponents should be. Okay, this is the graph of the function f of x. Which of the following is the graph of y equals 2 times f of x minus x? Okay, so here's something I want to show you. Okay, if I look at this, this is the original function. I know that this is a negative quadratic. So I know it's going to look something like this, negative x squared. And I can also see that my y-intercept is 2. So I'm going to write this as my function. So the first one, I'm going to say it's something similar to that. Y equals negative x squared plus 2. Okay, then what happens to it is I double it. Okay, so I multiply this entire thing by 2. So now y equals, or our new function, okay, we'll call that, we'll say this one, you can also write f of x for this one. Our new function is twice as big as the other one. So negative x squared plus 2 minus 1. Okay, so if I were to look at this, y equals, we'll use distributive property, negative 2x squared plus 4 minus 1. So I know I'm looking for a graph that looks like negative 2x squared plus 3. Okay, so I know my y-intercept's at least going to be 3. So when I start looking at this, if I look at all my answers here, okay, excuse all my work. Let me erase this for you. There we go. When I look at all my answers, there's only one that, well, I guess there's 2 that go through 3, but it has to be this one because this one shifts it to the right, and all we did was made it twice as steep. That's what the 2 did. Okay, and we moved it up 1 because we multiplied it by 2 and subtracted 1 here. Now another way of doing that, I could have gone to my calculator, okay, and I could have typed in y equals negative x, okay, let's say I wanted to make it squared, I could go to that little thing, negative x squared, and then I could do plus 2. And then I could have done y equals negative 2x squared plus 3. And if I look here at the graph, let's put that down. If I look at the graph here, I know this is my original one. And then this is my new one. So it goes up 3 and it's a lot steeper. Okay, so there you go. Question number 4 is B. Okay, number 5. It says a residual is defined as the difference between the actual value of the dependent variable and the value predicted by the model. Which graph best represents a relationship that minimizes residuals? Okay, so if you look at these 4 graphs here, okay, you are going to notice the same thing in 3 of the answers. So let's say we don't even know what residuals are. I know that I can get this correct. Okay? So look at C. The dots are off the line. Look at A. The dots are off the line. Look at B. The dots are off the line. There's only one answer that makes sense. It's D. Okay? And it makes sense. It says the one that minimizes residuals. And what are residuals? A residual is defined as the difference between the actual value of the dependent variable and the value predicted. So the values that we got are what was predicted. So it has to be D. Okay, on to the next one. Question number 16, it says the order pairs in the tables or the table are possible solutions to the given equations. Match each order pair to the equation for which it is a solution. Order pairs may be used more than once. Okay, so all we're going to do for this one is we're going to plug each one of these into the equation to see if it works. So if I walk through this one, the x is going to be -5. So I write -2 times -5 plus 5 times 0 equals 10. So if I do it, -2 times -5 is -10 plus 5 times 0 is 0. So -10. Oh, sorry, messed up. 2 negatives makes a positive. Okay, equals 10. So if we believe 10 equals 10, we know that absolutely has to be a solution. Okay, and we'll work our way through these all of these order pairs here. Again, you just plug the x into the x, you plug the y into the y, and you see if the equation makes it true. Okay, so I'm not going to work through all of these here. I'll do one in the middle though. So let's do this one here in the middle. So y equals 2 times 3 to the power of x. So we'll plug in 0 for x and 2 for y. So 2 equals 2 to the third to the power of 0. Anything to the 0 power is 1. 2 times 1 is 2. If we believe 2 equals 2, which I seriously hope we do believe, we know that that has to be true. Okay, so if you plug in 1 and 6 into that, that's also going to make it true. Okay, the only one that wasn't used was 0, -. Okay, we got a box plot shown here. Okay, so this one says, what can be inferred about the data? Select all and apply. Okay, we are going to use process of elimination on all of these answers here to see which one is going to be correct. So the first one, it says the mean is equal to the median. If we look at this set of data here, this line is where our median is going to be, right? The mean is not going to be towards this end because there's a lot more data on this side here. So we're going to go ahead and eliminate the mean is equal to the median. That cannot be true. Okay, next one says the mean is probably less than 30. Okay, you see all of this information here. Okay, we are going to assume that a mean is the average, so it's going to be more in the middle set of the data, where the 30 is not in the middle set of the data. Okay, so we're going to say it's probably less than 30. So that's one of our answers. This one says the mean is probably more than 30. Well, if it's probably less than 30, well, really hope it's not more than 30, so it can't be C. Okay, D, it says an officer captures an additional speed of 70 miles per hour. The mean must change. Okay, I really hope that one's true because if I add something that's a lot more than the rest of this data, that's going to change what the average is. So it has to be D. The last one says that if an officer captures an additional speed of 70 miles per hour, the mean must change, and the median must change. That's not necessarily true. Okay, so it has to be B and it has to be D. Okay, on to the next one. Question number 8. Okay, it says which equation completes a square to create an equivalent to x squared plus 10x plus 13 equals 0 in this form here. So when we complete the square, this is how we do it. Okay, we write x squared plus 10x like this. I'm going to leave a space here. I move the 13 to the other side. So now it's -13, just like that. I then take half of 10 and I square it. So half of 10 is 5. 5 squared is 25. So I'm going to add 25 to both sides, just like this. Okay, so then I can factor this. Okay, so x squared plus 10x plus 25. Two numbers that multiply to give me 25, but add to give me 10. I know are going to be x plus 5 and x plus 5. I'm going to go ahead and simplify it on the right side. Negative 13 plus 25 is 12. Okay, and I have 2 x plus 5s. Okay, so I'm going to say 2x plus 5 equals 12. And I say, holy moly, it's B, because that's the only one that is the exact same as that one. Okay, so that's how we complete the square again. All we did was we moved the 13 to the other side, took half of 10, squared it, added it to both sides, factored, simplified. Okay, this one says, which of the following are equations, or which of the following equations are represented by the graph shown? Select all that apply. Okay, so if we look at this here, we know we have zeros at 2, 0 and 4, 0. Okay, so what that tells me is that I have zeros at 2, 0 and 4, 0. So I know my equation to this line has to look like this, because the zero product rule, the x is 2 or the x is 4, because those are our zeros. So if I look at A, that is one of our answers. Okay, now if I were to distribute this, x times x is x squared, x times minus 4 is minus 4x, negative 2 times x is negative 2x, and negative 2 times negative 4 is positive 8. So I'm left with x squared minus 6x plus 8, just like that. And I believe that is also one of our answers. It's going to be this answer here. And our final answer is going to be B. Okay, and here's how we know that. If I were to do x minus 3 times x minus 3, x times x is x squared, x times minus 3 is minus 3x, minus 3 times x is minus 3x, and minus 3 times minus 8, or minus 3 is positive 9, so I get x squared minus 6x plus 9. Minus 1 here is going to be the same as what we had earlier. So I know. Okay, it says the graph of the equation is shown below. Write an equation that represents the graph shown. In the box, enter an equation that represents the graph. This one is something that we should all feel super confident in. First thing we know is that it's going to be y equals mx plus b. B is where it crosses, so I know it has to be y equals something x plus 5. And then I simply just check what the slope is. So this goes down 1, 2, and it goes over 1, 2, 3. So I know my equation has to be negative 2 over 3x plus 5. Okay, it says the equation of the function is f of x equals negative 3 over 2x plus 120. Okay, I'm going to show you how I set mine up. Okay, let me see if I can zoom in a little bit. Can't. Okay, so what I chose to do is I clicked on this button right here. And I made a line that went up and down. I then clicked this button again and made a line that goes sideways like this. Okay, so what I know from up here is that the y-intercept is 120. So I know that on this line, it crosses at 120. So I went by 20. So 20, 40, 60, 80, 100, 120. Because I wasn't going to count by ones. Like, that's kind of crazy. Okay, so I know it crosses at 120, so I put a dot there. What I also know is that my slope is negative 3 over 2. So I went down 1, 2, 3 over 1, 2. Down 1, 2, 3 over 1, 2. But you'll see that my line here stops at 60. The reason being is if you look at the instructions, it says the domain of the function, which is how far something is left, how far something is right, is from 0 to 60. So if I look at this, I graphed this line because it goes forever and ever and ever, but they just asked me for this little segment from 0 to 60. So that's how I would graph number 11. Okay, on to the next one. Question number 12. It says a car sales business is analyzing the number of cars sold and the average daily high temperature. The data is shown on the graph below. Okay, so right here we have a bunch of temperatures. And right here we have a bunch of cars and their sales. Okay, so if we look at the answers here, here's what we have. Again, we're going to use the process of elimination to solve a lot of this. So it says, which statement is correct based on the data above? Okay, the temperature gives no indication of car sales. We know that's absolutely bogus, and that cannot be true, because clearly it does something to it. Okay, the next one, it says, if the temperature is 50, the amount of car sales will definitely be 4 cars. Okay, so if the temperature is 50, it definitely has to be 4 cars. I go, that doesn't seem very true. So I'm going to keep going. C says the higher temperature is correlated to higher car sales and causes the car sales to increase. Here's what is true. The warmer the temperature is, the more car sales we are having. That's just facts that we see on the graph. Okay? But we say, does it actually have an impact on it? Like, do car sales make people, or does temperature make people buy more cars? And that's not necessarily true. So it can't be C. Okay, so D says the higher temperature is correlated to higher car sales, but does not necessarily cause the car sales to increase. And that is going to be true, because it does show that the higher temperatures does relate to higher car sales, but temperature and car sales are not like code together. Don't know the mathy way to say that, but that does not necessarily cause the car sales to increase. Okay, so we're going to go D on that one. Okay, on to the next one. It says select the graph that shows the solution to the system of linear inequalities. Okay, so if we look at this one, it says y is less than or equal to 2x minus 2. So let's think about that. We need a line that crosses at negative 2. Okay, and the slope is up 2 over 1. And it's going to be below. So on the graph, this is the correct line here. So it's going to be shaded below the line. Okay, so if we look at all of these, we know it automatically cannot be A because there's nothing shaded below the line. We know it automatically cannot be B because there's nothing shaded below this line. Okay, so we know it has to be either B or D or C or D. Okay, the next equation says y is greater than negative 4x plus 4. So it has to cross at 4, and we see that these both cross at 4, and the slope is negative 4 over 1. So this is negative 4 over 1, negative 4 over 1. Here's the kicker. It has to be greater than. Okay, so there's not equal to, so it's a dotted line, and these both have dotted lines. But the kicker is this one is shaded above and this one is shaded below. Okay? So again, we're looking for a line that's shaded below this one and it's shaded above this one. So it has to be D. Okay, on to 14. It says the following question has 2 parts. First, answer part A, then answer part B. Okay, it says Riley needs to save $300 for a computer. She gets an allowance of $10 a week and has already saved $75. How many weeks until Riley will have enough money to buy the computer? Select the correct inequality symbol from the drop-down listed to model the situation. Okay, so here's what we need to do first. We need to select which symbol it is. Okay, what we need is this to be greater than all of that. And you'll see why here. It says, what is the value that is a solution to part A? Okay, so if I start plugging in all of these here, okay, so let me get my calculator. And I...
Here, 10 times 20 plus 75. I got 275. If I do 10 times 21 plus 75, I get 285. Okay, if I do 22 times 10 plus 75, I get 295. And if I do 23 times 10 plus 75, I get 305.
So I know that has to be 23. So that's greater than how much it costs. So it has to be 23. Okay, on to question 15. It says the following function was used to calculate the profit generated by selling t-shirts. Let f of x equal 15x minus 25. Represent the profit function in x, and x represent the number of t-shirts sold. Which statement is true? F of 200. Okay, so when I do this, I simply need to do 15 times 200 minus 25. And I got 2975. So what that says is it results in 2,975, and it means that $2,975 was made in profit. So my answer is going to be D. Okay, on to question 16. Which of the following represents, or which of the following relations represents functions? Remember, functions is when one x is with one y. Okay, so we said it's like dating. You should only date one person at a time. Okay, so one x dates one y. Okay, so we're only looking at x's in relation to the y's. So we're looking at these. We say, uh-oh, C, not cool. C is with 16 and 17. So this one is not a function. Okay, if we look at the next group, this one is a function because all of our x's, okay, are dating exactly one y. It's okay that they're all dating the same y. Okay, we just can't have multiple of the same x's dating different y's. Okay, so we say that one is true. This one passes the vertical line test. Remember, you put your pencil on the graph. If it crosses over once, you know it's a function. If it crosses over twice, it's not a function. Okay, so we know that one is. Okay, this is a linear equation, so we know that one's a function. And we know this one's not a function because that does not pass the vertical line test. Okay, on to question 17. It says match each function type with the function shown in each table. Okay, so if I'm looking at all of these here, okay, this one here, if you look at the middle one, so G, you'll notice that it looks like it dips down and then it comes back up. Okay, so I know G is going to be a parabola shape and it's going to be quadratic. So G goes to quadratic. Okay, the next one, I guess I skipped F. This gets half as big each time because it's down 4, down 2, down 1. So we're going to call F exponential decay. Okay, then let's go to K here because that one looks pretty easy. We say this one is multiplying by 2 every single time. So you know K is going to be exponential growth. Okay, and the final one is linear. Let's see if I can do this. Where is it? Okay, the final one, h of x is going to be linear because the slope is the same. So again, to find slope, I find the difference of each of my y's, divide it by the difference of my x's. Okay, so I have the same slope there. Okay, on to the next one, number 18. It says, which of the following statements describes a linear model shown? Select all that apply. And on this one, I'm going to use process of elimination. Okay, so if I look at A, it says the number of days missed has no correlation to a student's grade. That's obviously not true because the number of days missed with a student's grade, obviously there's something different about that one. Okay, so I could use this tool, I guess, answer eliminator, and I could go ahead and eliminate this question right there. That's kind of fun. Okay, let's not use that anymore. Okay, the next one, a student with perfect attendance is expected to score approximately a 98% on the test. So if I look at this, 0 days missed goes up to 98. I'm going to say, yeah, approximately a student with perfect attendance should score 98% of the math test. Okay, another one. A student with perfect attendance is expected to score approximately 38%. You know what? I am going to use the eliminator on that one because that one's ridiculous. D, for each day a student is absent, the student's final exam score is expected to decrease approximately 6 percentage points. So if I look at this, each day it drops approximately 6 percentage points. So I'm going to say that D could be an answer. Okay, and the final one, for every 6th day a student is absent, a student's final exam score is expected to decrease approximately 1 percentage point. So I'm going to say that's not necessarily true. Okay, so it has to be B and D. Okay, the following equation has 2 parts. First, answer A, then answer B. Okay, it says that we're going to graph this one here. Okay, so similar to the other question, we are going to put a dot at 3. So let me do this really quick. See if
this one works. Okay, so my dot's at 3, and I go up or down 2 over 1. Okay, so I go down 1, 2 over 1, and I put a dot. Okay, down 1, 2 over 1, and I put another dot. So I know my line. Let's see if I can do this here. Other line starts at -2, so I put a dot at -2. It goes up 1 over 2. So I go up 1 over 2, and I can already see where this is going to interact at. So line going here. Okay. Okay, so they cross.
they cross at 1 or 2 down 1. So I'm going to say over 2 and down 1 on that one. Okay? Because the answer to a system when we're graphing is where they cross. Okay, last question for part 1 today. If I go to question 20, this is the following scatter plots show relationship between 2 variables. Match the correct correlation coefficient with each graph. So here's a quick little lesson. Okay? We're talking about residuals. Okay, so 1, 0, 1. And R equals. Okay, so R equals a range from 1 to -1. Okay, we're going to say 1 is what we call a strong positive. And -1 is what we call this a strong negative. Okay? Meaning the area or the range between 1 and 0 is a weak negative. And the area between 0 and -1 is a weak, it's a weak positive, is a weak negative. I don't know why I chose to use plus signs and then actually write negative, but you get what I mean. So what I'm saying is the closer the number is to 1, the stronger the positive is. Okay? Anywhere in the middle, if it's above 0, it's a weaker positive. I'll explain what that means in a second. The closer to -1 it is, the stronger the negative is. And that area in the middle is what we call a weak negative. So let me show you these graphs here. If you look at this first one, and I said, hey, yo, what kind of slope do I have here? You're absolutely going to say that is no doubt a positive slope. Okay, so if I look at my answers here, there's one of these that's like, yeah, this definitely a positive slope. Right? Okay, if I look at question 2, or number 2 here, I'm like, yeah, you know what? That looks like it's going in a positive direction, but I'm not as confident as I was on A. We're going to call that a weak positive. Okay, so if you look at this one is a weak positive. Okay, the next one, this one, I'm like, yeah, that's definitely a negative. Okay, so I say has to be negative 0.76 because that's closer to -1. And this one's trending in the negative direction. This one is, but I'm like, so it has to be, it's negative, so it has to be this one. Okay, that's all I'm going to do for part 1 today of the EOC review. Again, if you have any questions, ask me or any of the other 8th grade math teachers. Thanks for watching.